everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I just wanted to give my reactions on that Muratalla versus Andy Cruz fight yesterday at the La Fontaine Blue in Las Vegas, and then also wanted to talk about Azim against Lamos. That fight has just been postponed, and then there's a big week ahead. You've got Shakur Stevenson, Teofimo Lopez. Also, you've got Josh Kelly, Bakram Zaliev. Now, quickly just going through the card. Firstly, a big shout out to Zaquin Moses, who went against Medina. Zaquin Moses is, of course, the cousin of Shakur Stevenson, and he looked really good. He's just 20 years of age. A lot of, he showed a lot of sort of coming in, coming out of range. Very quick, nimble on his feet, and he's one to look out for. He's in the junior lightweight division. He managed to knock his opponent out. I think that was in the 4th round. But a very good start for Moses. I know he looks to have a very good career ahead of him. And then going on to Israel Madrimov against Salazar. I mean, Madrimov coming into the fight was a big favourite. I mean, this guy was the guy who pushed Terence Crawford to giving him arguably the hardest fight of his career. He hasn't fought in 11 months, and I've just been reading on the Ring magazine that he had 5 weeks to prepare for the fight before obviously he begins Ramadan in mid-February. He's a devout Muslim, so he didn't have a lot of time to prepare for the fight. As I mentioned, 5 weeks, but I mean, he did sort of go through the gears a little bit towards the end of the fight. I mean, he was just one combination away from knocking out Salazar, especially in the 10th. I mean, they were both out on their feet. I think Madrimov was cut in the 6th as well. So, yeah, he had a cut on his eye in the 6th round. So, a big sort of, I guess, I mean, he wanted to be out there before Ramadan, because if he maybe left it after that, Ramadan's a month, mid-Feb, mid-March, and then maybe looking at he gets back out April, May time. So I guess this was a good way, if you think about it, the fact that he's on 5 weeks sort of prep. This was a good way for him to just get back out there, and he did, and it was a very competitive 10-round fight. Amari Jones drew him Baxter. Amari Jones looked really good. And then Khalil Coe, Jesse Hart. I mean, Khalil Coe missed weight by 7 pounds. I mean, firstly, that's very unprofessional. I mean, there's fighters who would, give a lot to be in a position that Khalil Coe is in. Co-main event of a big fight card, a matchroom fight card, in Las Vegas, and so, it kind of leads the assumption that he didn't really take it very seriously. And that's something that he shot himself in the foot, really, because there's no way like any promoter is going to go out of their way to sort of work with someone who can't even make weight. And you'd imagine that, okay, he didn't make weight, but then he's going to give a fan's performance to remember, and he didn't. Neither fighter did. Jesse Hart didn't as well. I think that was a big letdown, considering the build-up that these two gave leading up to the fight. A lot of people were excited for it, to see them to go to war, but that didn't materialise. But I guess that's the thing with boxing, right? And it's just the thing with any sort of sport, football in particular. On paper, there could be two teams, and in this case 2 boxers, doing well, matched evenly on paper. They give us a good sort of build up to the fight, but it doesn't really deliver. And this one didn't really deliver. But I'll tell you what delivered, and that was the main event, Muratalla against Andy Cruz. I mean, they're both very skillful fighters. You could see the sort of skill, both sort of, going to and fro, going head to head, exchanging leather. And that's what you want to see. That's what boxing fans want to see. Andy Cruz in particular, I mean, I did a video that he didn't turn professional until later on in his career, and that was because of Cuba and their sort of long-standing association with fighters having an amateur background. Professional boxing was only sort of a thing in 2022 when that ban got overturned. So 6-0 to fight for the IBF World Title is a very big step up. But he showed that he belonged at that level. Given the performance, he could have edged it. I mean, I think one of the judges gave it 118, 110, which is a bit of a disgrace. How can one judge give it a draw and the other one give it 118, 110? But hey ho, that's the sport you're in. But he'll come back from this. He'll really come back from this. But in regards to Raymond Muratalla, I mean, 24 and 0 now, I think that makes him. 17 by way of knockout. He's up there with the very best. I mean, I know Lopez and Shakur Stevenson are going to fight. They're going to go up to super lightweight, 140 pounds. This was at 135 pounds. So I guess maybe, he's in the there's a lot of lightweights in that. You've got Abdullah Mason, who's coming off a very sort of grueling win over Sam Noakes. Sam Noakes as well looked really good. I mean, Sam Noakes against Andy Cruz could be a good fight. So there's a lot of options there at that table. Adam Azim, Dalton Smith. I mean, I think the division's moving up nicely, and I think both of these could have a very successful career going forward. Okay, so now that's out of the way, I wanted to talk a little bit about Adam Azim against Gustavo Lemos, because that fight has just been cancelled today, and I was sort of thinking, right, like how can you get injured this close to a fight? Like, surely you've seen the same with Moses Talma, Jermaine Franklin. Talma, it was revealed that he tore his bicep. But how are you well, I hope they're not sparring this close, but how are you sort of putting yourself in a position this close, a week out, to, it's just bizarre. Like, you'd assume that there'd be a lot more sort of precautions in place, considering it's this close, considering fans have paid a lot of money to come out and see it. Now, there'll be fans who paid for, hotels, accommodation, train tickets that you probably won't get cancellations for, and it looks like this card isn't going ahead. But a card that hopefully does go ahead, and a couple of cards that do go ahead, is Josh Kelly against Bakram Murtazaliev and Shakur Stevenson, Teofimo Lopez. I'm hoping to be in Newcastle for the media workouts and press conferences ahead of that fight in Newcastle, and then obviously you've got the event in Times Square. So a very big sort of week to look forward to. And yeah, we'll leave it there. I'll talk a little bit more about those two fights tomorrow and in the upcoming week. But yeah, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much, guys, for watching, and see you in the next video.